The Thanksgiving movie season just wrapping up, and as we head into the Christmas movie season, we got a lot of movies to talk about in the final episode of Watch This. We got 4 previews, 4 reviews from Thanksgiving and Christmas seasons, including the new Fantastic Beasts movie, the new Creed sequel, the new Ralph Breaks the Internet sequel, and the new adaptation on Robin Hood. I guess you're sensing a theme here. And we'll also take a look very shortly on Christmas movies coming up next on Watch This. As we kick off this last edition of Watch This for the semester, we'll take a look at something that maybe you might have not heard of, which is Once Upon a Deadpool. Exactly. So, Ian, I know you're a big Deadpool fan. It's a Christmas special, which I don't know why they're doing that, but just kind of fill in our audience as to what this is about.
Well, Ross, essentially 20th Century Fox wants to take Deadpool 2 and make it PG-13.
Oh, no.
So they want it. I'm assuming they just really want that dollar amount. They really want to keep it going.
You think?
So, well, apparently they've been asking for it since 2006.
Wow.
They've been really asking for a PG-13 film because they feel it'll reach a much wider audience and can actually be dedicated as a family picture.
Look what happened in X-Men Origins Wolverine. How well that turned out.
I mean, I don't know.
With Deadpool.
Oh, yeah. Everyone hated it. But leave it to Deadpool to go far and beyond what he needed to do for it. And essentially, the trailer so far is Fred Savage being duct taped to the bed. And it's an actual completely created depiction from his one of the movies he was in the 1987, A Princess Bride, when he was a little kid. All right.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and Deadpool's just sitting there with his little book, and he's going to read him a bedtime story. And
I'm sure that's going to go well.
But the only thing that's serious about this is that 20th Century Fox says that they're going to make each dollar of the tickets that are sold is going to be used for cancer awareness. So, I mean, they're going to do something very nice for it. But again, it's just...
The source material is, like, questionable as to why they're doing it on Deadpool. Because whenever you think of Deadpool, you don't think of feel-good story. You think of, everything that's not feel-good.
Yeah, you're thinking of
violence, wisecracking jokes, lots of profanity, lots of...
adult humor.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's honestly the F word, as a lot of people would describe it, is only brought to two times it can be used in a PG-13 film. So
they're gonna use that in the first 5 minutes, I bet.
yeah, they're gonna get every buck for that, and they're gonna make sure that they try and they're gonna like reshoot it. They're gonna have to if they're gonna be able to get a 2-hour-long movie out of this.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what fan reactions will be whenever that comes out. But moving on to something more kid-friendly, in Into the Spider-Verse, which is kind of an alternate universe in more ways than one, involving the Spider-Man series. And Ian, I know a lot of comic book fans have really been looking forward to this adaptation.
Oh, so much. And you know what? One of the things I was really kind of skeptical about it was the fact that it's going to be an animated feature film.
Yeah, I did see that. I was kind of confused on that. I thought it was going to be the sequel to Homecoming at first, but that was just me not knowing.
Yeah, and honestly, with the fact that it's an animated film, I'm actually more excited. I'm actually more excited because they can do so much more with an animated film, and I'm actually really excited to see this new form of it's like a blend between like 2D and 3D and even now like 4D animation.
The animation is a lot like Coraline.
Yes,
in those kind of movies.
Yeah, it's got this weird stop motion look to it, but it's all computer generated. So I'm really excited to see it, and I'm really excited to see that Nicolas Cage is playing the noir Spider-Man, the one in the trench coat, all black.
But that doesn't work because if you don't have Nick Cage not acting out and giving his facial expressions, then like, what's the point of even having him there?
Well, because it's Nick Cage. He can still give great expressions with his voice.
They're gonna have to mimic it with computer technology.
Oh, most definitely. But they're definitely following the comic books. They're definitely following it, which is a very good sign to a lot of us comic book nerds who really like them following those. And I did read that Stan Lee, before his passing, did have some executive producer mentions on the film.
I hope that there's a Stan Lee cameo. I mean, that's probably going to happen.
If it's not in there, then you know what? I would riot for that. I would.
Well, with Stan Lee's passing, unfortunately, there goes my theory that he is Thanos in an alternate universe.
Yeah, you know what? I could definitely agree with that. I could also agree with the fact that I believe he's a Watcher. Which is a whole different type of Marvel lore.
All right, but getting back on topic with Into the Spider-Verse, we only got a couple of minutes before we head to the next segment. Now, the villain, if I'm not mistaken, you know more about this than I do, is the Kingpin, correct?
Yes, it is.
Can you kind of explain him?
Well, basically, the Kingpin is he's definitely just a mob boss character. If you've understood DC, Marvel Comics, basically he's just his average crime lord, but he's one of those crime bosses that just has a lot of this.
Well, that's what most crime bosses have.
Yeah, but I mean, he has his own private businesses. He's kind of like Lex Luthor in a way. That you could kind of compare him to Lex Luthor in a way. And he's kind of like, he's really got that multi-purpose villain, because he's the villain to a lot of different heroes, like Daredevil, and now Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, so. Wasn't he in the Daredevil adaptation, the one that stunk the place up? Wasn't he in that one?
Yes, he was.
Okay, that's unfortunate.
Yes.
So that movie comes out near Christmas time. I believe it's
only premiered on Christmas.
Okay.
Only in theaters on Christmas.
Okay, so there we go. That could be, I guess, your Christmas present, if you will.
Yeah.
But we'll step aside. When we come back, we'll step into the action genre with Aquaman and Bumblebee on Watch This.
You don't know what's going to happen with the hurricane. You cannot predict its path.
And he didn't clearly understand what his job was there to do. And that's sad because he's just a statistic now.
Total lunacy.
It's an alarming statistic.
That ended up winning the National League to face the Red Sox in the World Series.
But clearly he didn't understand the context of the speech.
If you haven't heard me talk about this yet, I'm sorry.
Come on, people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, try to love one another right now.
Take the time and do what makes you happy.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
We're back on Watch This. Now time to talk about the redheaded stepchild of superhero cinematic universes in the DC universe. We'll start with Aquaman, led by Game of Thrones star Jason Momoa. He plays the aforementioned title character, and, well, it's an origin story, if you will. So, seeing the trailers, I'm very much looking forward to this movie, but what I'm really worried about is the wisecracking jokes, even though I think it could help in a lot of ways, but it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like the first time DC's done that was literally during their whole
the Suicide Squad.
Well, that and also Justice League did a couple of those towards the end. And I'm just kind of like, okay, so DC is definitely copying Marvel now, and I guess why not then do it with Aquaman?
Which is funny because you look at DC and Marvel. Before the Marvel Universe, you could argue that everyone was much more well-known with your Batmans, your Supermans. And keep in mind, too, Aquaman, we talked about the redheaded stepchild, he was certainly that, kind of like your Ant-Man of the DC Universe, except who wants to be a guy in water? and then you see the pictures come out whenever Justice League was on the horizon, and all of a sudden, wow, Aquaman! I really want to see how Jason Momoa does.
Yeah, I definitely love the character choice. Like I'm only excited because the whole time he's been doing this this whole movie, he's actually been playing jokes with a lot of characters and cast members on set. You know, he seems like a really fun guy to probably meet in person, and he just brings this whole new thing to the character, and he brings this whole new kind of personality to not only just the character, but also to probably future films that he might be starring in. And you know what? I have to agree that yes, Aquaman is not exactly the, you know,
The strongest.
well, actually, he's actually fought toe-to-toe with Superman in comics.
Well, he's not he's not one of the more well-respected.
Well, it's kind of hard when you've got the same superpowers as SpongeBob.
Fair enough. But, you know, with the DC universe, real quickly, what I'm concerned about is with Henry Cavill's departure as Superman, is this even worth going into?
Oh, they're gonna keep going, man. I mean, they kept it going even when they had to CG his mustache away. All right, so the fact that he's gone as Superman, that's not gonna stop them from keep making different films.
That is one powerful mustache, by the way.
Seriously.
All right, moving on. Now going into the Transformers spin-off movie Bumblebee, another origin story. This time it features Haley Steinfeld as one of the lead characters, and of course Bumblebee and how he came to be in planet Earth. So Transformers hasn't gotten a lot of respect as of late, and rightfully so. The movies, if you ask me, are dreadful past Part 3. Now you got a new director behind the scenes. I don't know if Michael Bay's not as heavily involved with this as he was in the prior Transformers movies, so there is some hope. And the trailers seem to be taking this movie pretty seriously, and it's not just explosions, explosions, explosions.
Well, the thing that's actually going to be the biggest selling point for this film is that they are basing it off of the childhood TV show and movie that took place a long time ago.
I thought you were going to say John Cena is the main villain.
Yeah. John Cena is in it. I question that.
Okay, but anyways, getting back to what you were saying.
But I honestly like this new adaptation. I don't know if it's a reboot, though. That's my thing. I don't know. They say the connections are to Revenge of the Fallen, which was the 2009 film.
Why that one?
It's just the mysteries that I have to answer every single day. But the thing is that this is the one movie I've been looking for, is because Bumblebee actually did start off as one of those main characters that got a lot of screen time back on the TV show and also in the movies. All right, I knew Bumblebee a lot through my childhood, so I mean, the fact that he's getting his own movie, I'm gonna see it. The fact that it's not totally directed by Michael Bay,
It's not.
yeah, and I'm gonna be happy regardless.
Yeah, I think that if they want to tie it in, they should tie it in with the first one and how he found Sam Witwicky, whatever his name, Shia LaBeouf.
Yes.
So that dilemma is going to be pretty interesting to see, and how he adapts going from his home planet to now being in an isolated world where he doesn't know really anything about planet Earth, and he's adapting to human life.
And they're still keeping to the fact that Bumblebee cannot speak. They're keeping to that he has to use the radio to talk to people, and that he uses hand motions and other signs to basically showcase what he's trying to say.
Yeah, well, that movie comes out as well during Christmas time, as do all of those movies that we just previewed. But now on to the reviews. Coming up next, we'll take a look at Fantastic Beasts and Creed 2 on Watch This.
You're watching The Buzz, your place for all things Waynesburg. I'm Lindsay Stinger, your campus news host.
My name is Brian Bauer.
I'm Andrew Sloboda, your entertainment host.
My name is Corey Tertinick, and I'm here with this week's entertainment news.
on campus. And remember, it's all of your beeswax.
It's all of your beeswax. Remember, it's all of your beeswax.
Welcome back to Watch This, where Ian Popovich and me, Brandon Rossi, are joined alongside Brian Bauer and Chris Hulse. They're here to talk about Fantastic Beasts and Creed 2. We'll start off with Mr. Brian Bauer on Fantastic Beasts Part 2.
Well, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them 2, The Crimes of Grindelwald, should not have existed in any way, shape, or form. It was a terrible movie. It is the first major tarnish in the Harry Potter cinematic universe. And why it's so bad is because there's nothing that happens in this movie. Absolutely nothing. It is a character-driven movie where we follow like 5, 6, I couldn't tell you how many people trying to catch the Dark Wizard played by Johnny Depp, Gellert Grindelwald. And it's just them running around trying to find him. And nothing. And then there's like 4 subplots in it, and nothing really happens over the course of the movie except the last 20 minutes, which probably could have been made into a TV special, and everyone could have been caught up then.
Well, you know, there was a lot of, in my opinion, there was a lot of skepticism, not only with this film, but this new spin-off series from the Harry Potter series. It's kind of like the Lord of the Rings, where they made money off of Lord of the Rings, in this case Harry Potter, and now they're just trying to find ways to profit off what is essentially now a dead franchise since they wrapped everything up beautifully.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, there's not much content left in this universe. What I think they try to get people to rope in and see this movie is the fanfare they gave it. We have a character named Nagini who can transform into a snake, which is, if you watch the Harry Potter movies, Voldemort's snake Nagini. You go to Hogwarts during this movie. I don't know why you go. You just go. You see Dumbledore. You see Professor McGonagall. They shove so much fanfare down your throat in this movie, it's not even enjoyable to see these characters.
Well, I'm pretty sure they did that solely because they want to be like, hey, yeah, it's totally a Harry Potter film.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
hey, guys, how you doing? Mm-hmm. You know, the more and more you talk about it, it sounds like, what, a filler episode?
That's exactly how I would describe it, is a filler episode for a TV show. They have 3 more movies for the series planned out. Unfortunately, yes. I think they're just going to keep building and building and building to what they teased as a fight between Dumbledore and Grindelwald probably in the last 10 minutes of the final movie in this installment.
Well, with that in mind, as a Harry Potter fan, like, is it going to matter if I don't see this film?
No, it's not going to matter because all that you missed was the ending. And the ending, you can just Wikipedia. It's not even that great of an ending.
Why don't you just put up a spoiler alert?
All right, we'll do the spoiler alert
right now.
Real quick.
So they're all chasing this person that Grindelwald wants, and then Grindelwald gets him at the end, and then Newt Scamander, the main character, goes to Dumbledore and says, "You need to fight this person," and that's basically how it ends.
So basically, they leave it at a cliffhanger?
Yep, for 3 more movies.
Well, on that note, we'll jump over to Mr. Chris Hulse and talk about much better movies, in this case, Creed 2.
Well, as Bryant talked about with his movie, Creed 2, I was worried it was going to fall into a lot of the same problems that Fantastic Beasts did, which is they're throwing in stuff from the old movies in the Rocky franchise. You have Victor Drago fighting Adonis Creed. Adonis Creed's father, Apollo, obviously killed by Victor Drago's father, Ivan, all those movies ago. And I was super worried that this was going to be predictable and boring. And to an extent, it was, but I think it fared much better.
I think, with movies like Creed 2, I think boxing movies and even sports movies in general fall into the same trap where you can almost pinpoint exactly what is going to happen, especially in a movie like Creed 2. It almost runs in parallel, not only with the first movie, but also Rocky IV, in which Apollo Creed gets killed by Ivan Drago.
And I mean, yes, events of the movie were somewhat predictable. There are actually two fights between Victor Drago and Adonis Creed, and you sort of know what's going to happen. But more than that, when the movie was announced, they were going to make Creed 2, obviously, after the success of the first one. And I just thought to myself, well, they're probably going to throw in something from the Rocky franchise. And it was sort of the safest, most obvious pick to get people into the theaters to see it. But I think, luckily, what Creed 2 has working for it is the character of Adonis Creed, along with his wife. She's now pregnant in this movie, and there's a lot of character-driven stuff that makes this more than your typical boxing or sports movie.
Well, also, too, another big thing that comes with a movie like Creed 2 is the training scenes. They really get you amped up, and they make you want to run through a wall. It almost feels like that you are Adonis Creed and you are the one training. So how did you respond to those?
Well, they were very interesting in this movie. I'll throw up a spoiler alert here for Creed 2 because Rocky Balboa, played by Sylvester Stallone, who also wrote and produced the movie, does not want Adonis Creed to fight Victor Drago here in this movie. And he ends up abandoning him in the first half before their first fight. He comes back, takes Adonis out to the desert in California for just one of the most intense training sequences I've ever seen in a movie. And it really does pump you up, gets you so excited for that final fight.
So one of the things I wanted to ask is, how did you feel that this one compared to the first one?
Creed 2 doesn't compare favorably, I would say, to the first one. The first one had some amazing performances, a few more plot twists. Sylvester Stallone, he said multiple times that he loves the character of Rocky. In this movie, he just didn't seem to have that same fire. Michael B. Jordan didn't seem to have that same fire. He's obviously had a huge year, but in this movie, neither one of them really brought their A game.
Well, thank you, Chris and Brian, for your takes on Fantastic Beasts and Creed 2. When we come back, we'll conclude the show with Ralph Breaks the Internet and Robin Hood on Watch This. We'll close out this episode of Watch This with our final two movie reviews of the semester. The first being Ralph Breaks the Internet and the other being Robin Hood. Corey Tretinik and Josh Woodman join us. We'll start off with the much more acclaimed movie in Ralph Breaks the Internet. Corey?
Well, Rossai, this movie is a thing that exists.
Fair enough.
Let's all say it together now. It's not as good as the first one. That's a recurring theme tonight.
We got to do that again.
Yeah,
all right.
right.
1, 2, 3.
It's not as good as the first one.
Okay, continue.
That was perfect.
Yes, it was.
There's not really a whole lot to say, honestly. I mean, I think they took the story to an interesting place. Like, it's better than the Emoji Movie.
That's saying a lot.
Way better advantage.
Are you saying that this is probably what the Emoji Movie was trying to be but failed miserably?
More or less, yes. Emoji Movie was limited by the fact they only had apps to work with, and a lot of them were apps that people don't use anymore. But Ralph Breaks the Internet had a lot more internet culture sort of stuff, like viruses, adware, online gaming, social media, more stuff like that. the plot was kind of all over the place.
See, I think though with a plot device as the movie depicts with breaking the internet, I feel as if they would have more ways to connect with today's generation. Do you think they did that and took advantage of it?
I think they did. There was a part where they go into like an online game called Slaughter Race because they need to get money to get a part for an arcade cabinet. So they are told, hey, if we get in-game loot, we can sell it to people willing to pay for it in real life for real money, which is like a thing that actually happens. That's most of like Argentina's economy.
I feel like that's it. Like the plot's understandable, but like that's so much to go through.
Yeah,
Like-
but when they get to the game, like the movements of the like players playing the game, they're like spot on. It looks like someone playing an online game, the jerky movements and all. It looks like they're playing Fortnite.
Not getting into that.
Yeah.
But do you think that obviously this was made after Wreck-It Ralph made a lot of money? This one should make a lot of money. It's getting good reviews, despite what people think of it being a sequel and all. Do you think a third one's on the way?
We could very easily see a third one. Anything is possible.
And if they go that route, they talked about going into games, now breaking the internet. Where can they go now?
I'd like to see Ralph meet another Ralph because he's only one Ralph in one Wreck-It Ralph arcade cabinet. So we can assume that if this works like Toy Story, he's not the only Wreck-It Ralph who exists. Is there another Ralph who feels the same way? Or does he not?
Or is he just kind of like how all of them were? They all just kept following their programming.
Well, we'll tune into that in the coming years because we know we won't get that for a while. Speaking of something we shouldn't get for a while, Josh Woodman to talk about, it's a bad one, Robin Hood.
Yeah, it was a rough film. Robin Hood was another sequel that they didn't need to make, and it wasn't just a sequel. It was a Robin Hood off after old Robin Hoods. Just there's so many. There was one that was one actor who did every character. There's Robin Hoods that were good, bad. This was really bad. I mean, this got a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes, and highly acclaimed critics said that Robin Hood steals from the rich and gives to the poor and steals $20 from the viewer.
Let's repeat what we said in the last segment.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
It's not as good as the first one.
Well, the other ones that came
Yeah,
before
well,
this.
did it have the musical Men in Tights in it?
I'm going to
You're
take
just
that
gonna
as a
have
no.
to
I mean,
the
do you
movie
think
to
it?
see
Do you think
that.
it might have improved it? Do you think it would have improved it?
Wait. We could put in a spoiler alert
Yeah.
just to see.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie itself, it was a lot more. It wasn't a musical-y type of Robin Hood. It was I'm going to kick butt. I'm going to make this more like a Michael Bay film. It was just special effects, action, fighting, and then let's loosely fill the plot at the end, and we made the movie.
Yeah.
Well, you got wannabe Michael Bay directing this movie, and it seems as if all these adaptations of old folklore tales, Robin Hood, even going back to a couple of years ago, one that really stuck out to me was I, Frankenstein. Even going back in recent years, The Mummy, which was supposed to expand its own universe or cinematic universe. It seems as if we're in a downward trend for these old tales just being poorly made, flat out.
Yeah, with this just being a terrible movie, not just let alone a Robin Hood movie, but just an awful movie, it'll hurt the main actor, Taron Egerton. He was really good, in my opinion, in the Kingsman movies, especially the first one, which I really loved. I can say I've watched that movie 5 or 6 times, and
Only?
yeah, only 5 or 6, But I really enjoyed him in that. But this one, I mean, he fits the role as he's like the right age and I don't know, the right mindset. But I guess I think it was a script. It wasn't well written for his type of acting, even though Kingsman was such an action, adventure-filled movie. but I don't know.
Well, also, too, you got to look at it from the perspective of, you got a good young actor getting put in a bad role. You're not going to hit a home run every time you step up to the plate. So we'll see how that goes from there. But that'll do it for us for this episode and of this semester for Watch This. We'll be back next semester starting in January, maybe in February, where we'll be talking about winter movies, yay, and what else is going on around the movie-making world. Have a good night, everybody.